What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the ever-charming Dr. Disaster. And yeah, I know there are a lot of you out there who don't want to believe that The Witcher 4 has some major red flags, but it is time for you guys to get up and stop sleeping.
Wake up! Yeah! Wake up! I said wake up! Get your ass up!
Maybe you refuse to acknowledge the fact that they literally changed the bone structure of Ciri's face, which, no, that's not something that happens with age. Your bones don't change like that. It was done to make her look more manly. But maybe you refuse to see it, or maybe you can just look past it and that's cool, we can agree to disagree. And maybe you aren't concerned about the questions that many of us have regarding the lore of the Witcher universe and how Ciri shouldn't have been able to pass the trial of grasses, to say nothing of the fact that Geralt and Yennefer would never have let Ciri take the trial in the first place. Maybe none of that bothers you. You're not going to let it scare you off because you're a mega fan of the franchise. You love The Witcher, and you love the studio. You love CDPR. Well, how about the fact that they are now openly talking about not making the game for you? Instead, they want to make it for the modern audience.
I'm so sick of these people! You know... Oh!
Yeah, everybody is sick of those people, but for whatever reason, these corporate schmucks think that trying to lure people in from this ever-elusive mass of humans is the way to go. The executive producer of The Witcher 4, in an interview with IGN, stated that they are after the new players with this game. They are looking for a wider audience, which is not what you want to hear as a fan of a franchise like The Witcher. Making the franchise more broadly appealing will cause the franchise to lose the essence of what made it what it was in the first place. What this amounts to is CD Projekt Red trading in scads of people who were a built-in audience for their games, trading them in for the hope that this new approach will attract others.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
This is classic corporate BS here. These are people who see customers as numbers on a spreadsheet. They will make calculated moves, trying to drive in new sales by doing whatever they can to appeal to the modern audience, which they imagine that this diverse and sophisticated group of people is much larger than their actual audience. But over and over, we have seen this approach has not worked out for these AAA corporate dingleberries, and it turned into a nightmare really fast. At this rate, I expect that this will be CD Projekt Red shortly after when this game finally releases.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Alright, me hearties, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and also, don't forget to follow me over on Twitter or X, or whatever you want to refer to it as these days. I keep a list on there of games lousy with wokeness pinned to the account at all times for your reference. My handle over there is Dr. Disaster 1. But alright folks, let's talk about what the executive producer of The Witcher 4 said about the game, which flies in the face of the excellent message that we heard the other day from Sven Vinke. Hopefully I'm getting that name right, but he's the CEO of Larian Studios that made Baldur's Gate 3, and he explained how the industry needs to move away from all this typical corporate nonsense that we see in AAA gaming these days in order to be successful. But before we look at what he said, which I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes here, let me first make it perfectly clear for those of you who haven't gathered this from my videos on the subject of The Witcher 4 thus far, but I have no problem in the slightest with Ciri being the next main character of the game. Not only did I expect that this would always be the case, but I wanted it. This was always the natural progression of the story. If they were going to make a fourth Witcher game, which is obviously something that everyone knew would eventually happen, but if they were going to make it, then Ciri makes sense as the main character. This is not me hating on women or some stupid shit like that. I know that it makes it very convenient to write off the opinions of others by labeling them as sexist or racist or whatever. You don't even feel morally obligated to engage with the content of what I have to say if you can just label me as someone with wrongthink. It must be convenient that literally everyone that these progressive schmucks disagree with, literally all of them are supposedly ists and phobes of some stripe or another, but no, I actually really like Ciri as a character, and I'm talking about this subject because I do not want to see her ruined, and I don't want to see Geralt being disrespected. But all that aside, this is what was said and written in the IGN article, which has set off major alarm bells for me. We want to aim for the new players, says Malgorzata Mitrega, executive producer of The Witcher 4. The wider audience, and also the people that know the franchise but who maybe do not play our games. As such, The Witcher 4 is being pitched as the start of something new as much as it is the continuation of something old. So, they've essentially done everything but use the term modern audience, and it's important that we all understand why this is such a problem. You see, corporate wokeness stems from a desire to maximize sales by treating people as though they are numbers on a spreadsheet. For example, they say to themselves, these corporate bigwigs, well, if males make up 90% of the audience of our franchise, which I'm just pulling that number out of thin air, though I wouldn't be surprised if it was somewhere close to the mark for the Witcher video games, but these corporations will say to themselves, well, that's only half the audience we could reach if males are 90% of the audience for us. Let's pander to females, and we could damn near double our audience. They realize they'll lose some of the original audience who no longer recognize the OG stuff, but the gambit is that they will more than make up for those losses with new customers gained. The modern audience term represents a hypothetical group of people that's more representative of the world population based on demographics. Simultaneously, these need to be people who are down with the so-called progressive notion that we need to be pandering at all. And they need to be people who play video games. That is a very specific Venn diagram that these people have to fit into. And these corporations think that gamers can be traded in for this sort of audience, which seems to be precisely what we're hearing from this executive producer from CD Projekt Red. Now, if we look at the article again, we can see that immediately after what we read before, they state that they want everyone who cares to play, which is them trying to leave the door open for older players to continue giving them money, but this is extremely concerning nonetheless, and it speaks to what I would consider to be the stereotypical corporate culture, one which spends more time focusing on branding strategies than actually telling a story. All other complaints aside, this is a major red flag, and it flies in the face of the very excellent message that we heard the other day from Sven Vinke, the CEO of Larian Studios, who spoke at the Game Awards and did a nice job explaining why some games are successful and some are not. Apparently the people at CDPR slept through this message, but let's look at it again here.
I realize you guys have been sitting here for over 3 hours, but I still have some time credits from last year to cash in. So it turns out that not only will I be the one who will know as first which game wins tonight, but I actually also know which game is going to win next year, the year after, and the year after. Now, how do I know this? Well, an oracle told me. She said, change is coming. It's a modern oracle, so they made me sign an NDA, but I trust all of you. I know you can keep a secret, you will never leak it. The oracle told me that the game of the year 2025 was going to be made by a studio who found the formula to make it up here on stage. It's stupidly simple, but somehow it keeps on getting lost. Studio made their game because they wanted to make a game that they wanted to play themselves. They created it because it hadn't been created before. They didn't make it to increase market share. They didn't make it to serve as a brand. They didn't have to meet arbitrary sales targets or fear being laid off if they didn't meet those targets. And furthermore, the people in charge forbade them from cramming the game with anything whose only purpose was to increase revenue and didn't serve the game design. They didn't treat their developers like numbers on a spreadsheet. They didn't treat their players as users to exploit. And they didn't make decisions they knew were short-sighted and function of a bonus or politics. They knew that if you put the game and the team first, the revenue will follow. They were driven by idealism and wanted players to have fun. And they realized that if the developers didn't have fun, nobody was going to have any fun. They understood the value of respect, that if they treated their developers and players well, those same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned. But above all, they cared about their game because they loved games. It's really that simple.
Yeah, it's really simple. Studios that treat their games like nothing more than a business commodity and who treat people as numbers on a graph, those studios have been getting their asses kicked. It's important to realize this is where wokeness stems from. Sure, there are true believers who buy into all the corporate crap that gets pushed onto them by the HR departments, but the reason that it has proliferated so heavily is the desire from the top of these companies to increase the market for their products at the expense of long-standing customers. And deep down, they despise all their old customers that have turned on them, that question their methods, because you fly in the face of their numbers on spreadsheets, which tell them that everything should be working brilliantly. They hate you for being right, that this is not the way to conduct business, and that marketing has to have a more human approach. But I'm going to leave it there. What do you make of all this? Drop your thoughts into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.